Hi, my name's Rob Robinson, and I am a lead mentor at Blue Startups. When I started Hawaii Angels, I was looking for people in town that were going to be prospective angels, right? And that meant, you know, wealthy and often older people. But as part of this process, I met Shanoa, who was a recent graduate of UH from the executive MBA program, and she was super excited, high energy, very much wanting to get involved. And so I thought, well, great, I need all the help I can get. So I asked her to, if she wanted to help with some of the organizing. I mean, she volunteered really to help with some of the organizing and the logistics and stuff like that. And so she, just basically became indispensable to the group over time. So I said, well, how about this? I've been looking to really try and step back a little more from the Angels now because I have this other business and I teach at UH, and it's a lot. And how would you like to be the managing director of the Angels? And we can pay you a small amount of money, not what you're worth, but And so she said, great, and she started doing that. And then a few years later, Hank Rogers formed Blue Startups, and they were looking to recruit an executive director, and I strongly supported Shanoa's application for that, and I wrote Hank a letter, and I told him I thought they should hire Shanoa as the obvious choice, and so she got that job, and so then I guess in return, she asked me to be one of the senior mentors at Blue Startups, and I have been ever since. I guess there's kind of general mentoring, and then there's my particular area of expertise. In terms of the general mentoring, we spend a lot of time just trying to orient the companies in a way that they come out of the program with momentum and that they're ready to go to market, ideally. So there's a lot of, we have a template of how we want the company to look. And so there's a fair bit of shoving it into that template, to try and make sure that they meet, what would generally be recognized as criteria for being investable. My particular area of expertise, obviously, because I run the Angels, and because that's where I spend a lot of time, is on that early funding. I spend a fair amount of time talking to them about how to structure their financing, whether they want to do a convertible note or they want to do a priced round, basically how to approach investors with that idea. I try and clear the way for them perhaps to present at Hawaii Angels. A large number of the companies that graduate from Blue Startups do present at Hawaii Angels. And obviously, if they do that, then they are now part of another process, which I'm very much involved with, which is helping them through that and helping manage that initial angel investment that they're going to get. The main way it's changed is it's become more legitimate and more public. So, I think angel investors have always existed. I mean, if somebody said to me once, the pyramids were partially funded by individual investors. I don't know if that's actually true or not, but it gives you a sense of anytime there's been an investment opportunity, people have taken that as individuals. But they mainly did it as individuals, and there was very little organization. A lot of it was based on personal relationships with the entrepreneur, and occasionally you'd get groups of 2, 3, 4 people who would do investments together and so on. But it was, again, very informal and very, somewhat random in the way that deals found investors and investors found deals and so on. And then after the Second World War, when the venture capital industry really started gaining momentum, there were probably lagging that by 15, 20 years, there was a movement to start forming groups that were, run more or less professionally. There was proper screening, there was proper due diligence. People would come together on a regular basis and review deals. The deals weren't necessarily, this is my son-in-law or this is somebody that I'm related to. It was just on the merits. And these groups started forming, and that's actually what I wrote my book about. So in the late 70s, even, it was very rare to find an angel group. The Band of Angels in the Bay Area, San Francisco, formed around that time, actually in the 80s, very much one of a kind at the time. A couple of others followed. And then during the dot-com era, there was this wide perception that, hey, there are opportunities here. I want to get a piece, of the next Apple or the next, I guess later Amazon and so on. But I don't know how to, and there's all these companies, everyone's got .com attached to their name suddenly. I don't know what's good, what's not. And so the idea of being able to go and do due diligence with a group of people and sort of pool your resources and pool your knowledge and so on became much more, I think, useful to people. And these angel groups, really started formally incorporating, becoming nonprofit business clubs or becoming LLCs in some cases. Some of them formed their own funds where they would co-invest with their angels and so on. But on the company side, what they were finding was that, we talk about the 3 Fs, family, friends, and fools that invest in these companies early on. And then, once you've run out of money from that source, and you've, maxed out your credit cards and you've, borrowed from your mom and dad and your grandmother and everything, from there to where venture capital would invest, which is sort of over here, there's this gap in the middle. And that's where angel investors really fulfill an important role, because we're less, we don't require the company to be as far along usually. And we're willing to invest when it has very low revenues still, or perhaps even no revenues. And, we help that company get to the place where maybe professional investors will invest. That's a very important reason why angel investing exists at all, is that need to bridge that gap. When I teach entrepreneurship at UH, I tell my students, I say, one of the biggest, I think, incorrect beliefs out there is that the saying that I think Benjamin Franklin coined, which he said, if you build a better mousetrap, the world will beat a path to your door. And I say that nothing could be further from the truth. That is 180 degrees wrong, right? You can invent something that is useful, that's novel, that's interesting, that's useful, and you will get nothing unless you can figure out how to monetize that, how to commercialize that, be it through licensing or starting your own business or whatever, right? But if you do have a novel idea, you're a long way away from realizing that value just when you have the idea. So I think when you say what irritates me about entrepreneurs, a lot of it is very unrealistic expectations. And they don't want to give up any equity in the business. They also, I think that they are going to be the CEO of this company forever. And again, I'd say, well, why do you think that? Why? What is it about you that makes you think that you would make a great CEO of a company when it's earning $10,000 a year, when it's earning $1 million a year, when it's earning $10 million a year, when it's earning $100 million a year? I mean, all of those are different skill sets. And why is it that you think you're going to be the person to do that? Do you have any history of that? No. Do you have any experience? No. Right. So, again, there are ways to be a part of the company. And certainly the founder, always is an important part of the company, but you don't necessarily have to be the one who is figuring out, how to make sure people get paid every month, and how to make sure that your advertising shows up in the right venues and everything like that. Those are all skill sets that you can hire or bring other people on board for, and so on. And then I think, as an angel investor, the other thing that really irritates me sometimes about entrepreneurs is that they are not loyal to their investors. So they'll take your money, and then as soon as that money is used up and they are looking for more money, they are quite happy to throw you under the bus, and make deals that are very disadvantageous to their existing investors. And that leads to a lot of unhappiness and a lot of friction, and occasionally threats of lawsuits and things like that. On the other hand, there are entrepreneurs who are exceptionally, I would say, scrupulous, principled, and they say, look, when I took your money, that meant I had an obligation to you, and that obligation was to do as well as possible with your money. And that certainly means that the first time I get the opportunity, I don't essentially abandon you and just make the next guy my focus. So those are some of the things. Obviously, there's a lot in presentations and so on that are very repetitive. I have my pet peeves. One of my pet peeves is, at some point in the late 1990s, early 2000s, they were coached to say, whenever somebody asks a question, "That's a great question, thank you," and then they go and answer it. And you go, first of all, if you say that's a great question to every question that gets asked, it trivializes it. Secondly, they're not all great questions, right? And then it's not a big deal, right? But it's that kind of thing that says to me, this person is not very experienced, and they're just they're just following a script and so on, right? It's very difficult to be comfortable in front of a group of investors and to be present, for first-time entrepreneurs, I'd say it's impossible. And so they are very rigid, and they stick very rigidly to the script. And you really, in order to make any progress with them, you usually have to get them away from that setting and get them more comfortable and sort of talk to them one-on-one. More experienced entrepreneurs tend to be more relaxed in front of investors, and you can have an actual conversation with them in that context.